What's happening, everyone? Welcome back for another episode of the Chamber Podcast. My name is Rob Johnson. Joining me in the studio today is Yvonne Lewinski from Thryv. Welcome in.
Thanks. Thanks for having me.
So, first podcast. So I always like to take a temperature of each guest who's on the show. So nervousness level when we start and then when we end. So where are we at right now?
About a 9.
About a 9. Well, we're going to get that down to a 2 by the time the show is over, I promise.
Awesome.
So we're talking about marketing today. So Thryv largely is an organization that caters to small to mid-level companies, end-to-end solutions on marketing and also services of software. But I want to know kind of your elevator pitch when people talk to you about Thryv, and then we'll get into a little bit of your history and how you wound up serving with this company.
Okay. Elevator pitch. There's so many of them, right? There's long versions and short versions, but elevator, I'll keep it as short as possible. We help businesses, local businesses, get the job, manage the job, and get credit. So it's an end-to-end client experience software that helps with everything from the marketing solutions, with listing businesses across the internet, their website, social media, even print ads, right? All the way down to getting those jobs, managing those jobs, and the employees that go on those jobs, all the way down to retargeting them and thanking them for their business, asking them for reviews, and retargeting them in the future.
So you said something that was interesting, getting credit for the job. What do you mean by that?
Well, we also accept payments, right? So it's also a payment processor, but also credit in regards to reviews. Reviews are huge.
I see.
In regards to, listings on the internet of, what people think about how you do business with them. So we encourage our client base, right, to write reviews for them.
Okay. So on the life cycle side of a business, when they start with Thryv, are they typically newer? Or have they been around some time, or is it just very across the board?
It's very across the board. I've worked with lots of companies that have processes in place, right? That I think it's a little harder to change habits, right? But as technology changes, they need to keep up with the Jones and keep up with the times, right? The easiest business to work with is one that has absolutely no presence, right? That's brand new. And then we establish good habits from the very beginning.
Okay. And how long have you been with Thryv?
15 years. So
that's a considerable amount of time. So what was it like in 2008 as social media was just starting? Facebook, the inception, I don't think Facebook for Business was around yet. And then it goes into this massive tidal wave of Instagram and then YouTube ads, and all of these things start to spin up simultaneously. So what was the evolution like for Thryv in 2008 to where it is now in 2023?
Well, in 2008, I worked for AT&T Advertising Solutions. So I helped old school business owners that had print yellow page ads move into the digital age. So I would literally convince them that they needed websites and they needed online listings and they needed online ads. And so at first it wasn't a software, right? It was simply, selling, online visibility or online presence. And then from there, it's developed. It's constantly changing. It keeps me on my toes. It keeps business owners on their toes, definitely.
Oh, yeah.
And I'm just there to help them through that.
So what's the process like, especially as you approach older business owners and you're explaining to them not necessarily the need, because I'm not a believer that every single business needs to be online, but it certainly is beneficial. So what does that value proposition look like when you're explaining to a business, these are the reasons you need to consider a digital strategy?
I think that was harder in 2008 than it is now.
Sure.
Now I think business owners know that they need it. The hardest, obstacle is that not everyone's technologically savvy, right? So not everybody is comfortable with getting on the internet and navigating Google and, making sure all their listings are correct and descriptions are right and pictures are updated and all that. So they rely heavily on their rep, somebody like me, to help walk them through that and the technology to help, keep it all up to date.
So what walk me through the process of what Thryv offers businesses. I know in the pre-show we were talking a little bit about obviously digital solutions, website, socials, but there's also software backing it that can help manage invoices and reviews. So talk to me a little bit about the offerings that Thryv has.
Well, Thryv is a SaaS company, so software as a service. Although we do marketing, right? And that's where our, origins are from.
Sure.
The software side of it, basically there's an online listing management tool that helps create all of your listings across the World Wide Web. So over 70 sites online, to where we make sure your business's name, address, phone number, description, all that is correct and consistent. From there, we make sure that you can communicate with those customers. So there's a CRM system. CRM stands for Customer Relationship Management Tool. So it allows you to keep notes on every single customer. Those notes start from how they found you on the internet, right? And then every communication, there's a centralized inbox. So whether they communicate to you via Facebook or your Google listing or your website, it all goes into one inbox to make it easier for that business to communicate with their clients the way they prefer to be communicated with. It even creates a texting communication. So if they prefer to text your landline, we convert that landline to a texting line, right? So they can text you back through the same way you communicated with them, or email or whatever. It also allows you to create estimates and invoices, keep track of every estimate and invoice that you have out there for every single customer. It accepts payments. So if a customer's ready to accept that estimate, they click accept, turns into an invoice. They could click pay now, and they could pay you. They could schedule appointments with you directly through the software as well. And then ultimately it's gathering all that information. So you could add notes under that customer, or it just collects the notes of their communications with you throughout this whole process. And it captures things like their email and their cell phone number, right? And then that allows you to then in the future, when you're done with that job, say, hey, thanks so much for doing business with us. The greatest compliment you could absolutely do is, write a review on Google.
Absolutely.
Right? So it prompts them to then click a link that takes them directly to your Google My Business page to write a review. And then in the future, you could say, hey, it's been a year since we've heard from you. Last time you had your teeth cleaned was 18 months. Ew, come back. Right?
Awesome email to drop somebody. Listen, we both know this is gross. It's been 18 months. You need to get back.
For sure. Right. Whatever business it is, you'd obviously.
Oh, I love it. Yeah, no, that's great. It sounds very comprehensive. It sounds like, especially for small businesses that are trying to get off the ground and they're trying to figure out how all these systems work together rather than licensing 5 or 10 different softwares, rolling it into one.
And absolutely. That's the way it started. So it's not like we completely, this is a brand new idea, right? What we did is we made it easier for business owners to have one username, one login to do multiple things instead of having 5 different softwares to do what one can do, what Thryv can do.
So talk to me about how you got into this and why you've stayed with it for so long. I want to know kind of your passion and what's made you stay in the marketing field.
Well, my background, my education is in marketing. I went to U of M. I have a degree in marketing. AT&T Advertising Solutions was a great company to work for and to get into when right out of college. I enjoyed that. And I guess what kept me going, or what keeps me going, is that it is constantly changing, and it constantly keeps me on my toes, and it constantly challenges me. And I love helping people, right? So when I see that, business owner that's trying to juggle 50 million different things, and I could say, hey, I have the solution, let me help you, and I get involved in that process, it makes me feel good. So I guess it's kind of selfish.
No, I mean, that's a motivator, right? I mean, you have to have, at least for me, I have to have a job that I am passionate about, or it's not going to last terribly long.
For sure.
So you have to have something that's driving you, or else you're just going to wind up going into the office and phoning it in every day, and it's going to show through to the work.
Oh,
right?
for sure.
So so you said one of the things that you love is helping businesses and putting them in a position to do well. I'm paraphrasing. Talk to me about the results from businesses before they started working with Thryv and then at the 1-year mark or 5-year mark or whatever that timeline looks like. Talk to me about typical results that clients can expect from working with Thryv.
Well, it depends. Every business has a customized program, right? Depends on how much they want to use or how little they want to use, right? So, I've had businesses as startups that had absolutely no online presence, which now are easily found with multiple reviews that are on the top of Google and don't even necessarily pay for ad space because their organic presence is strong enough to warrant enough business that keeps them busy.
Yeah.
Other businesses are seasonal, right? So they'll ramp down marketing dollars in their off season. For example, landscapers, right?
Sure.
Or even roofers, right? And then ramp up, in the late winter, early spring to make sure that they get prepared for that season. I don't know how to answer the question specifically because everyone's different, right?
Sure.
But ultimately, I help them make sure that they're found online, make sure, they can track their results easily of any marketing dollars that they do spend on the internet, track what clients are a result of which type of marketing, so that they know where to spend more next year.
Love it. Is there any one particular case that stands out that you're like, wow, this was a major mover and shaker for Thryv or just in general that you enjoyed working with?
Absolutely. Do I want to name names? I don't know. Can I?
You can. You don't have to.
Okay.
You still don't have to.
I don't know if I should.
That's up
I don't
to
know
you.
if I can.
I mean, that's up to you. I don't really know the policy side on the podcast. It's fine. I name names all the time. So, but it's up to you. You can just talk in general. I was just curious more so if it's like we had, this one client who was he was an electrician, started off, no presence, absolutely. No one could find him. He couldn't even find his own office. And then after, 6 months, crushed it, bought the yacht, all the good stuff,
For sure. This local roofing company had a great reputation in regards to people knew them, right? Word of mouth. They grew up in the area. They've done business in the area for a long time. But it was specifically in that area, in the Saline, Michigan area. They had a harder time getting out, right? So getting more into Ann Arbor or Milan or up to Brighton or Livonia, right? So marketing helped them just expand their reach a little bit.
Excellent. And then let's say you have a small business that comes in and they say, hey, man, I have all these problems right now. I need these strategies. What does that strategy session look like to get them from, everything's on fire, it's in a shambles, to now things are slowly getting organized? Do they meet with you monthly? Is it weekly? Like, what does that look like from a client relationship perspective?
It depends on their needs. Initially, we meet more often. So when we're strategizing, sometimes it takes hours, right?
Yeah.
So that's over, say, a couple weeks period. And then it depends on their timeline on when they're ready to move forward with things. Then usually we're meeting probably weekly for the first couple months. And then after a couple months, we, back it down to once a month. And then as they need, right? So then some businesses don't want to meet with me once a month, right? Because they're like, I'm just too busy. Everything's going well, right? Like, it's good. Send me a report, right? Let me just check it at my leisure. And then others want to continue monthly, or some people want to continue bi-weekly, right? It really depends on their needs. And we're very flexible with that. They have our 24-hour support.
Excellent. That's cool. So apart from obviously I know you said you have a lot of joy in helping business owners and seeing them succeed. What are some other things that you enjoy in the process of working with small business owners?
Learning. So learning how they got into business, learning what they do. I take those little tidbits and I apply them to my personal life on a regular basis. So I'll come home and I'll be like, we have to have flood insurance on our house, because if we don't, then we're not going to get any coverage, if this and this happens, right? And it's something that some business owner told me about, some insurance agent told me about their business. And, I end up applying it in my personal life, right? Or I'll be like, oh, I found out that these shingles are bad and, they're not going to last as long or whatever. So, we need to get our roof checked out, So again, I enjoy the learning part. I think it makes me a more well-rounded person as well, because I get to, I guess, learn a little bit deeper about different types of businesses and products and all that in my neighborhood. So it's kind of cool.
No, that's great. And that's one thing I love about the podcasting medium as well. Even hosting the Chamber podcast for the last couple of years, it's been every week is a learning experience.
Yeah, you're learning about a different industry.
Yeah, one week it's a funeral home, the next week it's marketing, and then roller skating, and it's it's all over the place.
Right,
so
and it makes it fun.
Yeah, and you get kind of an inside look into people's why do they do what they do, and why do they enjoy it.
And you learn their passion, and that passion is contagious, right?
Absolutely. Yeah, it's always fun to see people that enjoy what they do. We all know people who hate what they do, right? And every day is a grind, and they're like, oh, it's Sunday night, I don't want to go to work tomorrow. Thankfully, I haven't had that problem pretty much my entire professional life. I've always enjoyed what I've done. But when you see someone who is on fire for what they do, it's motivating. It's like, that's really cool, and it's nice when those similarities sync up, when you're both in the same boat.
Well, I think working with small business owners, right? If you're going to start a business, it's going to be around a passion. Sometimes you have somebody that inherited a business, right? That maybe is doing it because, their family's done it for generations. But for the most part, people are usually passionate about it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. There's only a few that are either inherited or it's a major cash grab and they're just trying to strike while the iron's hot.
Right.
So it's always interesting to me to see what fuels people's passion and why they do what they do. Anything else that the listeners ought to know about Thryv before we look to close today?
Again, we're an end-to-end client experience software. We help with everything from getting the job to managing that job and ultimately getting credit for that job. So we try to simplify it for the small business owner. One thing that we have that no other software company has is your local representation. So you have a rep like me that'll come to your location, sit side by side with you, and work through a program.
That's fantastic. It's nice to have the on-site support. Everything's not so remote, and you feel like, oh, it's Yvonne on a screen again for 2-3 years. Because I've always felt this even in my business, when you're able to sit down with someone at a table like we are right now. For some reason, there's a lot more trust. That trust is built a lot quicker, I should say. At least that's been my experience, as you get to know, because you can see the real-time reactions and it's not filtered through technology.
Well, you get to look them in the eye.
Exactly.
Shake their hand.
Yep.
See their product or see the business that they're in and get a feel, right, for where they are too.
Oh, it's fantastic. Now, if someone wants to work with you and they go to the Thryv website and they're like, no, I want to work with Yvonne, what's the best way for them to do that?
I have an employee website, so I will provide you with that information.
Perfect. So we'll make sure that's in the show notes.
Absolutely.
Excellent. Well, thank you so much for your time. I really appreciate it.
Thanks.
And
thanks for making this easy.
Well, good deal. We got to do the check-in. So you started at a 9. Where are we at now?
I'm still a little nervous. I'll give it a 3. All
right. Well, it's a 6-point reduction. I'll take it. That's from a 9 to a 3. So that's good. Well, thank you so much, Yvonne.
Thank you for having me.
Absolutely.
It's been fun.
All right, everyone. That's going to wrap up another week of the Chamber Podcast. I appreciate all of you watching. If you want to know more about the Chamber, you can visit the website. That's in the show notes as well. If you're not a member and you want to become one, you can certainly do that as well. And if you are a member and want to be on this show, you can reach out to them to be a guest. I think we're almost booked up until 2024 at this point. So it's going well. So apart from that, we'll catch you on next week's show. Take care.